Hurricane Ian was a terrible natural disaster. Lives were lost, homes were damaged. Some people will most likely experience post-traumatic stress disorder. Though it's tragic, we have to put things into perspective. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
'Cause I found my way.
The reality is that the number of people severely impacted is a really small number. That doesn't make it any less tragic, but if we don't keep into context, we can get pulled into the emotion. And there are real estate patterns which really can be identified and anticipated following a natural disaster. For one, initial reactions are understandable, but demand recovers quickly. Post-hurricane emotions are high. People near and far are shell-shocked by the images and the loss of life. And as a result, it is totally expected that a percentage of buyers will initially take a step back from their home searches or even cancel an existing contract. However, memories do fade quickly. The majority of buyers will reestablish their search within 30 to 60 days. So long-term demand will really not be negatively affected. Number two, only the hardest hit areas will take longer and have more turnover. Sanibel and Captiva Islands, along with Fort Myers Beach, will take several years to rebuild. Real estate in those areas will be somewhat chaotic for the near future. As rebuilding starts to really take shape in the coming years, new and improved communities will appeal to a new set of buyers. Areas in the secondary impact zones like Naples, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Inglewood, Northport, those will recover quickly. There are many that are already back to life and back to normal, and the majority of residents will really rebuild and remain there. There will be some investment opportunity, but as a whole, the communities will look the same and pretty much within the next year, even before Ian. History is not a crystal ball, but it is a really good indicator of future odds. And 14 of 15 Category 4 hurricanes that made landfall since the 1900s in Florida were all south of Charlotte Harbor. That's not a solid predictor of the future, but it will impact buyers' decisions. So number three, it all boils down to supply and demand. In the long run, the west coast of Florida is more likely to be affected by the national market pressures driven by inflation and macroeconomic factors than from a hurricane. The near-term risk is this particular hurricane landed in the middle of a national real estate asset market shift. And as a result, pundits will erroneously blame the hurricane for value adjustments, and most likely that would have happened regardless of a storm. More people really do want to move to Florida than almost anywhere in the US. All the factors above will impact short-term and long-term demand and possibly cause short-term volatility. Supply in much of the west of Florida will actually reduce over the coming weeks and months. And if demand and supply reduce at a similar pace, we can really expect that home prices will remain stable. But as long-term demand rebounds, prices will most likely return to an upward trend as long as macroeconomic environment does not falter. Long-term home values on the west coast of Florida are not as much at risk as in a widening gap of affordability. That's a big concern. Increasing insurance costs combined with increased values will price more and more average Americans and foreigners out of the Florida market. Nobody has a crystal ball to accurately say where values are going to go a year from now or in the long run. And there are simply too many variables locally, nationally, and internationally. But we can state with a high level of degree of confidence that similar hurricanes in the past have seen recovery followed by increase in values. So, we'd really love your thoughts on the subject. Post your comments below and please like and subscribe.